In Washington, there is a bipartisan mood to block China's technological advance. The latest showdown is taking place in a globally significant area of semiconductor manufacturing, and the Biden administration kicking the $53 billion Chips and Science Act program into gear. But will that help the U.S. maintain the dominance of the sector? It could be a double-edged sword. President Joe Biden signed the act last summer with a statement claiming the Chips and Science Act will lower costs, create jobs, strengthen supply chains, and counter China. This line draws applause for its focus on the resilience of the supply chain and the rebuilding of the U.S. semiconductor industrial base, but it ignores the fact the semiconductor industry is one of the most globally integrated industries, and the U.S. can never be fully self-sufficient. Even the U.S.-based Semiconductor Industrial Association has expressed concerns. It says more than 80% of the semiconductors manufactured in the U.S. are sold overseas, meaning new semiconductor factories and jobs created with support from the CHIPS Act will need greater access to global markets. Beijing made this common quote: decoupling will not only be at odds with the loss of how this industry grows, but also cost the U.S. a great deal, both economically and technologically. Last October, after the U.S. issued a revised policy on artificial intelligence and semiconductor technology exports to China, Secretary of State Antony Blinken said there is intense competition underway to shape what comes next. He made these remarks as he came close to new Cold War. Now the U.S. has secured a deal with Japan and the Netherlands to join a new semiconductor export controls. That's because both countries entirely control the market for the lithography tools needed to make the next generation of chips. But this is ironic. It's ironic because both countries are parts of the global supply chain, and they also have their choke points, and Washington knows that. It's ironic because Japan, back in the mid-1980s, was forced to sign the unfair U.S.-Japan Semiconductor Agreement and relocate its production center offshore and invest in pure rather than applied research. This is ironic because that agreement eventually backfired on U.S. companies. It's just as Beijing said earlier. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be in the lead on the high-tech front, but the right way to achieve it is through fair competition rather than doing whatever it takes just to maintain its tech hegemony and deprive other countries of the right to development.